Today is a tutorial I'm making on VCarve Pro and designing a Torres FE18 head to be cut out on the CNC machine. So first thing we do is open up VCarve Pro. VCarve is a software that you can design 2D and some 3D. They call it 2D.5, I think, files. And this software costs $699. They make and this is a pro version, they make a desktop version. It's called VCarve Desktop that sells for $349. And I find that I bought this the pro version thinking that it's what I had to have, but some of my friends have the desktop version, and they can do anything that we can do in this, except for a few things that you may not need, but they do come in handy, and they're always improving it. So you could buy the desktop version for $349, and then if you want to upgrade to the pro version, you just pay the difference at some other point to upgrade to that. So anyway, I like this VCarve software because I'm not particularly smart, and this has a lot of templates and very easy to use. So let me open up, so I've opened up VCarve and I want to create a new file. Okay, so I've created a new file, and it will, the first thing you have to do is job setup. This basically creates the workboard, let's say, where you're going to work on your file within this. And so the Torres head is 163 millimeters long by 75 millimeters wide at the widest point. And so I've created a workspace of 100 millimeters wide, x 200 y, the height and the thickness of 24 millimeters. Now the original Torres head on the FE18 is 17.3 millimeters thick, and that's quite frankly too thin for modern tuning machine plates. So you will have to, I think, I don't know, I have a jig and a template, but I think a regular guitar head, modern guitar head, is about 21, maybe 21.5 millimeters, something like that. I could be wrong. But anyway, you're going to have to make it thicker if you want to buy modern tuners. So anyway, we have the job size, that's this over here. The Z 0 point is where the router sits in relationship to the surface of the piece you're working on. And so we were going to have it at the surface, right where it starts. Now the XY position, I like to have it start in the middle, just because it gives you the option here to start at the corner of the work piece or this corner. When you're working on a symmetrical design, I much prefer a starting point in the middle. For other things, everything in a guitar, one side is mirrored to the other side, so it's all got to be exact. So I start in the middle. Some people don't. I think they're crazy if they don't. Anyway, let's see, blah, 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 blah. You can select your color of when you review your work, whatever. Okay. All right. So we have this workspace. What I want to do, I work in measurements of squares. So for instance, I know that from measurements that the head of a Torres is 163 millimeters long by 75 wide. So I'm going to make a rectangle, 75 wide and 163 long. 163. Oh. Hard to do it from this angle. Okay, and then I'm going to click Create. It creates a rectangle. I'm going to close out here, and I'm going to click this. Anytime you want to do anything with a vector or a shape or anything, you have to select it first, always, like in all software. I selected it. I want to go to Align Selected Objects. So I want this to go into the middle of our workboard. So I hit Centered. So it now has centered the head within the workboard perimeters. So click again to get rid of the selection, deselect it. Okay, so now I know, for instance, that the crown up here of the Torres design with the large hump in the middle and the two smaller ones at the end, I know that they are, it's from where it starts on the side of the peg head, it's 26.5 millimeters high from where it starts to the top of the middle circle. So I'm going to create another rectangle that is it's the same width but a different height. So I'm going to do 26.5. Okay, it's going to create it. Okay, there it is. Now, if you keep hitting click on the left side of the mouse, you're going to, it allows you to make a bunch of different, create the same, like click 10 times, it'll create 10 rectangles. So I don't want that. So I'm going to right click and get out of it. Okay, so I'm going to select that, and now I'm going to move it to the top by using the arrow keys on the keyboard, and just that way it stays aligned. You can also drag it. You can you can, if you click again, it gives you these little squares, and if you take it in the middle, press down and drag, you can maneuver this any way you want. You can also take these here and get onto that and drag it this way, that way, you know, all different directions. But since, you know, everything needs to be aligned with the center line on the head, I don't want to do that, so I just do it with the up and down arrow keys. So, okay, so I want to bring this to the top. Whoop, I got to select it, see? Bring that right there to that line, okay. All right, so we know this is 26.5. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click up here in the ruler section and left click and hold down and drag this marker onto that line. Right there, like so. Okay, then I'm going to select this square that we made right now, and I'm going to delete it. Right click, bring up this menu, and you click delete. So that square we just made has been deleted because we don't need it. It was just a measuring tool. So now we know where the design at the top of the head starts. It starts right there. We will need a line down here for various reasons, so I'm going to now click here. See, you have these create vectors. You've got circles, ellipses, squares, pentagrams, stars, straight lines, arced, zigzag lines, you know, text and all this stuff. So I'm going to click here. It says draw a line. Click here, then go over here, press down on that line, and then drag it across, and it will generally stay on that line. Now you got this line. Now if I were to press it again there, it would make this point and that point. You can make a whatever design you want, but I just want that line. So I'm going to right click on this and get rid of it. So there we have that. We can also take this marker and do away with it. Deselect it, and now we have that line. Of course, we don't need this overhanging, so this really cool tool, scissors, it'll clean up this stuff. Okay, so it's like cutting these straggly hairs, which I have a lot of. Okay, so we've got that part defined. Now, the bottom part here, we're going to now create the taper in the head. So I know, let's see, I've got this stuff on my phone. I've got all the measurements here, so I'm just reading them off. If anybody wants them, let me know. Okay, so at the point where the taper in the head starts at the design and it goes down and breaks into the kind of little curve that goes into the nut. In the original plans, it's 57 millimeters. Now, one thing with this is, you know, the head is quite elegant on this FE18, and if you change any of the dimensions, it might not be look exactly like a Torres, you know, the original Torres. The problem is, the nut on the original is 48 millimeters wide. And most people aren't going to want to order a guitar with a nut 48 millimeters wide unless you're into original copies or you want it for some reason. I've had customers order a 48 millimeter nut before on a FE17. So you know, it's up to whatever, but I would say the majority of orders are going to be between a nut that's 50 to 52. So I'm going to create a nut size that is a 52 millimeter nut, because it's better to cut it too big than too small, right? If this cuts it out too small, then you can't add to it. So, create. And look at that. I can't believe it. It just created it right there. Usually it creates it out in space somewhere and you got to drag it there. So that's perfect. So that is a 50 millimeter nut. 52, sorry. So what I want to do is create a line from here. No, what I want to do is create a line where the flat part, where the plates of the tuners ride on the side of the head till where it breaks into that taper into the nut. So that taper into the nut, I believe, is 24 millimeters, but I'm going to have to measure it again. Let's see. Indeed, it is 24.5. Let's just call it 24. So we create width of 75 and a height of 24 millimeters. Create, yeah, so it created it right there. So I'm going to select it and use the arrow key up, up, up until it rides right there. That looks perfect. I'm now going to bring another marker down. And right there on the line. Okay. So now we don't need this square anymore because that was just a tool. Select it, delete. Okay, so now we know where this, okay, so I'm going to make another little square that is a rectangle that is 75 by 57, because that's the width of the head at that point. 57. And these are the original Torres 57, 75, 57. What did I do? Forget it. I messed up. Hold on. Select that, get rid of that box. Delete it, start again. Rectangle. Width, okay. 75, and then no, I'm crazy. My turtle is walking around the floor here making all kinds of racket. I'm a little distracted. He comes in the shop sometimes and they walk all over the backyard. The height, let's say it can just be 5 millimeters, it doesn't matter. And then create. All right, so deselect that, and okay, so select that, and then the arrow key up to that point, right? Now you can scroll in. I have a mouse that has a ball on it, and if you scroll in, it magnifies it, and you can get it very accurate right there, I'd say. Scroll back out. Now, if you want to move this material to the center of the screen, you press the ball down and drag, and that will reposition this here. And then if you want to scroll in, let's say, it will scroll in to the point of where your arrow is, you know, so, okay, all right, so we deselect that. Okay, so I'm going to draw a line from here to there, and that will make the taper. So go over here, draw a line, click on it, come over here, and it has a little target thing there. Once it gets there, you'll see it. Click and drag to that point, and should have made it a little bit bigger because, yeah, right there. Okay, perfect. Do it again on the other side. Okay, so now you have that. Now I want to get rid of this box. Select, right click, delete. And I want to draw a line where the marker is. And it will pretty much, if there's a line, it'll click on it and it'll kind of follow the line. So, okay, we got that. There's a line there. And now I want to get rid of these hairs. Click. Like Pokemon or something, right? I've never played it, but I think it's like that. Maybe I played it once, I don't know. Okay. Now I want to draw a line from here to the nut. And it's going to slightly taper in, but not much, because it's a modern nut size on a 64 guitar. Right there. That's kind of almost a straight line. These things kind of snap. I'm going to say right there. No. Yeah. And I'll tell you why. Because I don't care if this side is accurate. I only care if this side is accurate. But I do this side just to get a visual, what we're working with. When we do this, I'm going to delete all of this side and mirror the image on this side later, which I'll show you. So I'm not too concerned with that. So I want this line gone here, because we don't need it anymore. And we only needed this line to establish a point to connect this line to. Now that line's connected to here and we don't need it anymore, so I'm going to delete it. And you want to do this as you go along, because if you get too many lines, then they start building up one on top of another, and you've got to have one clear line with no lines on top of each other. So yeah, so all right, so I'm just going to get rid of that. I could get rid of this square here too. I don't need it anymore. It's just we've measured where the nut is, and I don't care if that's accurate or not. I only care if this side is. So let's get rid of that triangle, okay? And clean up that hair. There. All right. So, okay, now we have the basic design. Now what we have to do is create the 3 mountains at the top. And excuse me for a second, I've got to find that turtle, my baby, and let her out. She's going to crawl under something and I'll never find her for days. Okay, come on. Come on, tung-tang, out. Go outside, yeah. Back outside. Okay. She likes to visit sometimes. Okay. Okay, so I know from the measurements I took of the head that the main circle in the middle is 44 millimeters wide. So rectangle, width 44. And, okay, I need to make a circle. The diameter is 44. No, oh, what did I say? Yeah, 44. and create a circle. Okay, select the circle, align objects, let's put the circle in the middle. And then we can select it and up arrow key it to the very top, right up, zoom in, get it right there. Okay. All right, we have that circle. Now we don't need this part at the bottom, so I'm going to just clean that up here with that. Okay. And so now we need to make two other little circles. There. So I know those, since I've measured, are 14 millimeters diameter. So 14. Okay, so hit create. And since, let's see, I'm going to double click and just drag this up into this area there. Okay. Now, I know that from the measurement that these smaller circles go up 11.7 millimeters from this cutoff point. So, with whatever height, 17, what, no, 11.7. Create. Probably went down to the bottom, yeah. Okay, okay, then up key. So, okay, so up right there. Click and drag. I'll put that on there. Have to go in a little more. Why it doesn't just click right on there? It's beyond me. Right there. Okay. Now we can get rid of this square, since it's just a measuring device. Okay, so now we can move this circle down with the down arrow key right there, and then right arrow key. I'd say something like that, because it has maybe a 2 millimeter, goes in 2 millimeters here, and then that starts there, a little flat place there. Okay, so I'm going to leave that like that. The reason is when the CNC machine cuts this out, it's got a basically about a 3 millimeter bit, and it will round this in here. And it will come here and it will round this section here, because the bit is round. So you're not going to get that, it's not going to cut that V kind of angle. It's going to be rounded. So it's going to be pretty much the shape that we want. Now these circles are not actual circles on the Torres. It's kind of a semicircle. I don't know what you call them, but they're not circles. And this one at the top kind of goes up a little more here and then kind of flattens out. You can do that later after you've cut out the basic shape. You can go back and start to shape this the way you want it. But for the purposes of the CNC, this is perfectly adequate to cut this out, this design, and then you go back and you refine these angles with a chisel. chisel or file or sandpaper. So I'm going to say this is good to go. And I'm going to get rid of these lines. Now, you know, the reason you get rid of these lines is because when you set up the file, it's going to, the toolpath is going to follow only one line. If it gets here and it has a bunch of other lines, it's not going to work. So it's only got to follow one line. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of that. Going to get rid of that. Get rid of that. That. So that's what we end up with. And I know this looks extreme, these angles, but believe me, it won't come out that way. Also can get rid of that and that. Okay. We can also get rid of this stuff. Wait, no, we can't, not yet. I got to draw a line down the center first. Okay, so a line. I always like to clip it up above there and go down. Okay, so we have a line. Now we can go in and trim this stuff off. This is why I didn't care how accurate this side was. Okay, so we have that. Now, what we want to do is create the slots. Okay, so I know the slots are, I believe 87, let me double check. 87 long by 14 wide. So I'm going to create a square or a rectangle, width of 14 and height of 87. Great. Okay. I'm just going to move it up somewhere. Maybe one more. Okay. Now, I know that the bottom of this slot is 40 millimeters from the end of the head where the nut begins. So I'm going to make, sorry for making all these rectangles, but a width of 14, let's just say a width of 75, just so we have a nice big one. Whoop. 75, I hope I'm not getting in the picture leaning over here. And by 40. 40, okay. Let's apply. Okay, so now I've got that. I want to drag this down. Or down arrow key, down to the right there, about. Right there. That line will appear as one and it will be black and red. That's how you know it's right on the line. I can move, since we don't need this marker anymore, I'll move the marker right there. Yeah, okay. And then I'll get rid of this square. Okay, so we know, oh, where's my, oh, did I delete the other? I guess I did. No big deal, we'll just make another one. Width 14, and height 87. Create, okay. Perfect. All right, so the bottom of the slot has to be at this line. So we can kind of select it, go up, zoom in, up arrow key right there. But it's kind of won't be, because I'll show you why. But anyway, let's slide this over to the edge a little. Now, one other thing I got to do, and we're almost done really, is this has to be aligned with the edge of this. There's two ways you can do it. One is create another square that's from the edge of the head to where the slot begins is 8 millimeters on this particular FE18, which is kind of typical of all classical guitars. I always make my regular guitars 8 millimeters wood here until the slot. On my regular guitars, I actually make this 16 millimeters and this is 14, but if it's too wide, it will look weird with this smaller head. So what I'm gonna try to do it this way. I'm gonna just left arrow key over and then click it again and these things come up. Now you can take each one of these black squares and drag it one way, click and drag, and it will change. You can also go into, where is it? Rotate selected objects. If you know the angle, which I don't, you can just type in the degrees and it will automatically turn it that way. So I'm going to have to eyeball it though. So I'm going to click here and drag and just try to get it. It needs a little more. I don't know. You can click this one too and drag it this way. Maybe right there. Looks like it a little wider up here, but we'll see. We'll see now. And also, I mean, what you can do two things. You can click this tool here. This is a measuring device. Click it and click that line, and up in the upper left it tells you how wide that is. That is 4.359 millimeters wide. This has to be, and then you just like right click and it goes away. You know, I'm sure there's a way to measure that and keep it, that measurement, and align it with that, but I haven't found it yet. If anybody knows, put it in the comments. I'd love to know. So one thing you can do is create another square, which is what I'm going to do, or sorry, a rectangle. Keep calling things squares and triangles. And so the width is going to be 8 because that's how wide that wood is, and the length, let's make it a, you know, as long as the head, 163, just so it stands out. Create. Okay, so now we're going to have to move this kind of out of the way. We can move it all the way over there. And take that, move it over here, click and drag, double click, drag this to where it's about there, I think right about there. That looks, no, Yeah? Oh, I shouldn't look down there. I should look up in here more. But let's see. Let's move that over onto the line and see how well it aligns up there. Okay, so, you know, that's pretty good, but it's not perfect. Or maybe it is. Looks pretty good, actually. I think beginner's luck, we got it right on there. Okay, so now all we have to do is move this up against that rectangle, and we have our space. Looks good, looks good. Down here it doesn't look good. Not happy with it there, so click again, get that. I'm just gonna right there. Click it to highlight it. Yeah, still it's, oh yeah, see it's too far that way and too far this way, so we'll have to there. There. No? God. Okay, so then I'm just going to hit the right arrow key, bring it onto that line, and hope. And it isn't, but it's getting there. It's getting there, so click again, bring that up. Let's take it here, this side. Right there. Okay. Yeah, it's just a hair, you know, we're talking 100,000ths of a millimeter away from that line. So it's right on there. So perfect. I'm happy with that. So there it is, centered. All right, so now we can get rid of this other triangle. Select, delete. Okay. So that's the position of the slots in the head. Perfect. So we're done, basically. Now, what we want to do is basically select that, hit the shift button and select, oh, one more thing, sorry. We need to make 2 ramps here at the bottom. And the reason we need to do that is we need a place for where the router, where the bit's gonna come. If we kept this line here and just cut the head, it will cut the head off the neck. We're having a, you know, a square triangular neck with the head, and you don't want to cut the head off the neck, so you don't want the CNC to cut this line. So what we're doing is making 2 open kind of vectors where it can start, and it will I'll show you. So, yeah. So, when CNC is on, it'll start here, move over to here, and start cutting out this shape. And then it'll raise up again, come back here, cut the shape out. It'll do that 12 times. If these ramps weren't here, then it would have cut this head out of the neck. So we don't want that. So anyway, now all I want is a, so I didn't even need to do the other side. And I'll do that later. I had a problem with that before, so I don't want to. So okay, now we're done with the head. One more, oh sorry, I moved that. One more thing we can do is we're going to mirror this image to the other side. So we're going to select that and select, hold down the shift key to select two things at once, or however many. Okay, so now we've selected that. We're going to go over here to mirror selected objects. Click on that, and we're going to simply mirror it to the right. And there we have it, the head. I know these things look crazy, but believe me, they'll cut out. You know, you can shape them later. Okay, so now we got to get rid of this center line, because like I said, it's got to follow the vector. If it runs into something like that doesn't know what to do with it. So we just clean it up. Yep. Let's draw one more thing. Let's draw a line here and trim these things off. The reason you have to draw a line is so you can cut these, otherwise it will cut the whole. It has to be a vector that intersects it, and so then select this line and delete. And there you have it, the head. So what will happen, we'll start in the center point. You locate your XYZ position right at the center. It will lift up, come over here and start cutting out the profile. Come here, lift up, go back here, cut it out. It'll do that 12 times. All right, so we've done that. Now we have to create the toolpaths to cut this out. Get rid of these markers, we don't need them. Okay, so click over here, toolpaths. And what I love about this program is it has kind of templates. So, for instance, I messed up. Hold on. I didn't, you know, I didn't create a rounded slot. Okay, so that's easy to do. Okay, hit circle. I know since this is 14 millimeters, I'm just going to make it a circle. Let's say create circle, 14 millimeters. Look at that, it just put it right there for no reason I could comprehend. Up arrow key, select, up arrow key, look at that. It doesn't, just goes up, it doesn't follow the slant. So, okay, let's zoom in on that a bit and let's move it that way, down a hair, up a hair, right there. Okay. Now, this circle has to intersect these vectors. The circular vector has to intersect these to connect. And as you can see, that's not connected. So they have to be connected. So go over, and now it's hitting that, right? That vector. So it can be actually, if you go into it, no, it's not hitting it. Look, it's not. So one more, I put it right there. Okay, there's an easy fix for this, which I'll show you. Looks like it's connecting there. Yeah, see, it's overlapping here. And we can kind of go there. And I'd say that's probably good. We'll find out. If they're not connected, it'll delete the whole circle. So I'm going to take this and cut there. And it didn't work. And that means that they aren't connected with these other vectors. So what I'm going to do, an easy fix I talked about, was I'm going to make that circle 14.1 millimeters, okay? Slightly, and I'm gonna click apply, and it will make that circle bigger by 0.1 millimeters. So, yeah, so it's overlapping there, good, and it's overlapping there. Now it should work. It should. There, see? There, and there. And there's, you can see there are three little kind of thick areas here. Those are going to need to be cleaned up too. So let's focus in on this one. And sure enough, we have a overlapping kind of vector there. Just snap that off. And we do the same here. Snap that. And there we have it. Yeah. Oh, one more up here. Okay. There. So we have clean lines there. All right. Now we're going to mirror it again. And, oh, I'm going to get rid of that line. Yeah, I hit back too many times, so it doesn't matter. I'm just going to leave it there. Oh, well, I guess I should do it just even with that. Just create a line here. Take that, cut that, cut that, cut that, cut that, and then select that line and delete it. Okay, now we'll try it again. Mirror this. Okay, so select that and shift down keyboard, select that. Go over here to mirror and flip it right. There. I think that's done. Okay, so now we got to create a toolpath. So a toolpath means where the router bit is going to cut. So like I said, they have all these templates. You've got a profile toolpath, you've got a pocket toolpath, drilling toolpath, you can drill holes, you can do text, engraving, fluting, texturing, prism carving, molding, I don't know what those are. I never use them. Okay, so what we're going to do first is create the slots, because I like to just carve the slots out first and then carve the profile of the shape of the head. So, okay, pocket toolpath, cutting depth. We are going to set it at 24 because I want it to cut through. We're starting off with a thicker piece than the head is going to be. So I'm going to cut it at 24 millimeters. That's about as deep as most of these bits are going to cut before it hits the what do you call it? The flute. We're going to use a 3.18 millimeter end mill. It's kind of selected for me based on how deep we're cutting, the size of the bit. It's telling me it's going to take 12 passes to cut through that. And the rule of thumb is if a bit is 3 millimeters wide, it's going to cut 1.5 millimeters. It's going to cut half of the diameter of the bit is a safe distance to use. So that's all figured out. You could go in here, edit passes, and change that if you want. Okay, so go down. All right. I'm going to rename this. Click here, and then I'm going to call it slots. And whoop. Slots 3.18 millimeter end mill. Because when you go back over these files, sometimes you forget what bit to use and you don't know. So it's good to label these. Okay, so let's calculate that. Oh, well, let's see that again. That's telling me no vectors are selected. So remember, to do anything, you have to select the vectors. No suitable vectors selected. At least one vector must be selected for this operation. Okay, so we are going to select, hold the shift key down. We're selecting that vector. No, wait. Forget that. We're selecting these because we're doing the slots. These two. Okay. Oh. Wait. Okay, toolpath. This all applies. It's applying to that. So calculate. Okay, so it's showing you that the bit starts here in the center, it's going over here, it's cutting this out 12 times, then going over here, cutting this one out 12 times. And the blue signifies that it's cut through the material, because this material is 24 millimeters, it's a 24 millimeter cut, meaning it's cut through. And if it doesn't cut through, a little warning thing will come up and say it didn't cut through, or it's too thick, or too shallow, whatever. and it'll warn you. So we're good to go with that. All right, so we've done the slots. So we click on here and select the profile, and we come to the toolpath. We close that and come open that. So again, it's 24 deep, 12 passes, outside right cut, not on the inside or on the line. And we'll call this profile cut 3.18 end mill. So we always know what size bit that is. Calculate. Okay, so it's going to start here. It's going to cut the slots out first, and then it's going to go over here, and either this side, I can't tell. It's going to cut out this, go up over here, raise up, go to this side, go until it's going to do that 12 times. It's going to cut out the head. So we're done. If you wanted to do some design, like I've done on some of mine, if you wanted to say carve a Friedrich thing in there, that's a whole nother thing. I could show you some design up there. Pretty straightforward. But we're not doing that today. It's just a simple head. So, all right. In reality, I actually already made this cut here, so I just wanted to delete that. So we have the slots and the profile. Close out of this. That's toolpaths. Now there's an icon here that says save toolpath, create job sheet, tile toolpaths, whatever that is. Summary of all toolpaths, review toolpaths, load toolpath template, save selected toolpath as a template, blah, blah, blah. We're interested in just saving it. Okay, so I'm going to click here, save. I've already put in VCarve, my processor, and it's Carbide Motion, which runs the Shapeoko. So you can scroll in a menu here and it'll give you 100 or so different processors, and Shapeoko is in there, so I clicked on Shapeoko. And very important that you put millimeters if you're working in millimeters here. I made the mistake one time of doing everything in millimeters and converting it to G-code in inches, and when I went to run it, it just said this does not compute, you know. So make sure whatever measurement you're working in, your processor is working in the same that it was designed in. So basically you just hit save toolpath. I don't want to, I guess I could, because I already made this file. So I just did this as a demonstration. And I don't want two files of it. So, but I'll just say save toolpath. This will come up, you name it. I'm just going to say delete. Delete. Head design. Head FE18. Delete, have it. Okay, and then you just click save to wherever you want to save it. I have it saved on my desktop on here. So what I do actually is so to get out of here, out, yes, I want to save this, and it's saved. That project is saved in VCarve. If I want to open it up again, do some modifications to it, I can do that. So what I want to do is okay, so if you go on here, let's move this up here. Going on here, it's a description of it. It's the new FE18 head profile and slots, 3.18 end mill, and this is the G code. It's not the file. The file will be, you know, it'll have this VCarve logo on it. Where would be the file? Newest. I've got armrests. I've got all kinds of tie blocks. I've got a Torres FE18 head that I probably made months ago, and I'm not sure what it is, what I did, so I just made a new one. I don't. It's in here somewhere. So anyway, that's the G code. So what I'm going to do is I send that G code to my email, and then when I run the machine, the CNC, I run it from my Mac, because the Mac is better than this Windows. So I just I'll send that to my Mac, and that will carve that head out. You can run it from your PC too, you know, no problem. But the Mac, the carbide motion on the Mac that runs a CNC seems to be a little bit more accurate. Not in the cut, but easier to work with while you're you know, loading it in. So so anyway, that's the end of the tutorial. I put these up just for people to learn a little bit. I'm not so much, you know, want to do question and answers all day long for the rest of my life on this stuff. But if there's some reasonable questions, I'll try to answer. Otherwise, you know, if it's an important question, I'll try to answer. But and anything I did wrong, anything I can do right, better, I know there are, but that's just my way of doing it, and that's kind of like the baby way of doing it, not the professional way. So anybody who wants to help me out, would be greatly appreciated in the comments below. Okay, so maybe I'll do a video of it actually cutting the head out, the one that we designed here, and other stuff. But anyway, thanks for watching. See y'all later. Bye.